That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
The British Constitution provides that taxation and representation shall go together. Therefore, women taxpayers are entitled to vote.
I have a dream today. Let freedom ring, and if America is to be a great nation, this must become true.
Well, welcome to episode 5 of the Only Human podcast. I'm Tony Kern, your humble host, and this is where we continuously try to close the gap between who we are today and who we're capable of becoming in the future. This last week, we launched a Facebook page for the podcast where we hope to create maybe a community of ideas around all things related to human performance. So it's called Only Human Podcast with Dr. Tony Kern on Facebook. Check it out. Leave your ideas or comments, and I promise I will respond to them all. Before we get started on the main topic today, I wanted to share a few insights that I've been getting from our listeners. And I've selected 3 because they kind of cut to the heart of what we're doing here. One listener, who has a successful podcast of their own, asked me, who exactly is your demo audience? That sounds very professional. I wasn't even sure what that was. Going on with the questions, it says it's great content, but appears to be very wide-ranging. I guess their point was that most successful podcasts have a niche audience. And, I don't know, say left-handed lumberjacks or cat people. I guess my answer to that one is that Only Human is for anybody who wants to get better at something, anything, and get more out of life. And I know that's a bit general. Maybe it's a recipe for failure, but it is what we're doing here. So the second one was similar, but more focused. And I'll read it word for word. It says, "Hey, Tony, I'm just a retiree and wish I had this back when I was engaged in my career. Back then, it would have really helped me." So listen, life doesn't end at retirement. And in fact, I know many people who have had a tremendous impact on the world after they've left the so-called workforce. So I sincerely hope your ambition and dreams didn't die with your biweekly paycheck. Man, there's a lot of things that need fixing in this world, and it's going to take us all. So the last comment is even more germane to what we're talking about here today, because it sort of clarifies my purpose and why I'm doing this. And here's what it said. It said, "I like your podcast, but I'm wondering what your personal goal is for it. Are you trying to expand your brand, sell more of your books, or drive people to your company's website? If so, you need to do a better job. So far, I don't see your agenda." Right? So that one really got me to thinking, and this is kind of what I came up with. And I've not actually responded officially to that one yet, but I'm not doing this for me. Right? I'm doing this for my listeners. Look, as we go through today's podcast, it should become crystal clear why I'm putting in the work on this, right? To cut to the chase, it's not about me, it's about you. That's why I'm putting in the work. That's why I'm doing this podcast. So today's topic remains complacency, the enemy of high achievement, and frankly, a big danger to us all, right? In our last episode, which was the Complacency Doctrine Part 1, this being the Complacency Doctrine Part 2, we talked about not only how dangerous complacency can be, but how in many cases nefarious actors use it against us, right? Counting on us to stay complacent by flooding us with a host of meaningless entertainment and mindless activities, all designed to keep us from doing the hard work of thinking and improving. And we called that the attention economy. And I urged you to boycott it for a few days and see what happened. I wonder how many of you gave this a try, what you discovered about yourself. I know every time I completely log off social media for a few days, and I do that frequently, I learn something new about myself, and I get back to being a little more grounded. So let me know how that worked for you if you decided to try that. So beyond this intentional effort, though, to dumb us down and hold us back, that's done to us by others, at its core, complacency is an inside game, or at least the solution for complacency is an inside game. It's one that we and only we can solve on an individual level. Others can try to motivate us out of it, but at the end of the day, we need to make a personal decision to re-engage and move forward. So we've all experienced storms of life which come upon us unannounced. Sometimes that'll make us pay dearly for earlier complacency, things that we weren't paying attention to, right? Which brings us to the blue threat proverb of the week, which is number 11. You can control the sail, but not the wind. And this one's kind of weird because its original meaning is that when the winds are blowing, you can make a determination whether you want to trim the sail and so the winds don't blow you over and kind of ride out the storm, or in some cases, you want to unfurl the sail and take all of that energy and just drive with the wind, right? So that was what it was. It's like when the storms of life arrive, you have a choice about how you respond. But the reason I chose it for this week is because sometimes we're out there in dead calm seas. And that's when complacency sneaks in, right? Dead calm, nothing to do, so we'll do nothing, right? Well, once in a while, we have to learn to provide our own wind to the sail. And so that's what we're going to be looking at today, how some of the things we talked about last week and more of the things we're going to be talking about this week, especially when it relates to the personal accountability side of this phenomenon, how often we lead ourselves into a complacent state of mind, and more critically, what we can do to get out of it by maybe just adding a little wind into our sails along the way. Last week, we discussed three things: motivation, resilience, and resolve. And I'll quickly review them for you. Motivation is essential, and it comes from a lot of different places, internal and external, but it's temporary. It's built on emotions, and emotions are temporary. Resilience, bouncing back from a hit, is critical, right? That's why there's so many resilience training programs out there. But all it does is return us to a previous state of mind. It doesn't propel us forward. And so that's why this third thing, resolve, which we said was the key to a long-term sustainable growth. Resolve expects trouble to arrive. It embraces the battle when it does. It encourages us to take action. And whether we win or lose the battle, we learn from the fight. And so we use the metaphor that we get back on the horse a better rider, right? So while motivation ignites our journey and resilience helps us weather the challenges, it's resolve that ensures we don't get stuck there, that we don't get dropped back into complacency. And we said that the key to resolve is understanding our cause, which begs the question, what precisely is our cause? And let's make it more personal. What precisely is your cause? What we're going to do today is discover how you can create a purpose, which will fuel your cause. That's the topic of today's discussion and why we call this podcast The Incredible Power of Personal Purpose. Don't break out your Tibetan prayer chimes or light up any incense, because this is going to be a little different than anything else you've ever heard about it. Here's the underlying one-liner Twitter feed for this podcast. The underlying prerequisite for any self-improvement effort is the will of the individual. How we shape that is critical. And so we're going to be talking about exactly how to do that in just a moment. While having individual willpower is important, and we'll talk about how to hone it and all of that, it's time to pay the bills. And we know that as we learn new things, one of the keys to making it stick is something called deliberate practice. Deliberate practice. So enjoy this quick promo for a brand new course from my company, Convergent Performance, and I'll be back in 1 minute.
Have you ever finished the latest bestseller on habits or personal performance and asked, yeah, okay, but how? All the improvements you visualize while reading the books require one thing to achieve in your own life: Deliberate practice, a new way of focusing attention inside the routine to drive consistent improvement with every experience. Focused on getting the biggest impact from your career development opportunities, the Deliberate Practice of Professionalism course from Convergent Performance teaches you the steps and requirements to achieve improvement and mastery of your targets. Discover how deliberate practice can springboard your improvement efforts, no matter what they might be or your current skill level. Join us on our website at convergentperformance.com and click the link for e-learning to sign up for this exciting program today.
Welcome back. So the world's always changing, but the pace and the depth of recent changes has been a different beast entirely. It seems as if many of the foundations that we've relied on our entire life are shifting. Socially, economically, politically, and in a host of other ways. Many, and I'll tell you, including myself, feel adrift, untethered from the familiar, from the trustworthy things we've done all our lives. So in times like these, we have to make a conscious decision to anchor ourselves to something solid. And that something solid is our purpose. So the first big segment here I call creating, not finding your purpose. You can go out there and Google up purpose, and you're going to find 100,000 things on how to find your purpose, right? Organizational performance guru Simon Sinek tells us when we know why we do what we do, everything else will fall into place. When we don't know the why, we have to push things into place. Seems pretty true to me. Likewise, Mark Twain, or Samuel Clemens, whichever you choose, once wrote, "The two most important days in your life are the day you're born and the day you discover the reason why." So the world's full of guidance on how to discover your life purpose. I mentioned that. But the word discover leads many to thinking that finding your life purpose is some kind of hide and seek game. It is not. True discoverers blaze their own trail to their final destination, right? Nowhere is this truer, and nowhere is it more important than with the concept of purpose. Purpose is just too damn important to leave to chance. So let's stop wasting time trying to find it, and let's get busy creating it. And in a minute, we're going to get into the steps for creating a personal life purpose statement. Sounds goofy, it's not. But I want to share with you first how powerful I felt my own life purpose statement to be. For as long as I can remember, I've been sort of I guess what you call a high energy guy. I have a million ideas. I have a dozen projects ongoing at almost any point in my life. But I'm looking back around the time I turned 40-ish, I began to realize that I was a scatterbrain. I don't know why that took me so long to figure out. I remember the moment when all that changed. I read a book by Stephen Covey called First Things First. It's really a book about time management, but that wasn't what stuck out to me. What I realized is I didn't have a first thing. You know what I had? I had a really long to-do list and a schedule without enough hours in the day to ever get it done. That was it. No meaning, an overactive brain with no true purpose, and therefore a wandering life. So I sat down one week and I decided to create a purpose. And to cut to the chase, I ended up with this: to help as many people as I can, in as many ways as I can, in as many places as I can, for as long as I can. I'll say it one more time. To help as many as I can, in as many ways as I can, in as many places as I can, for as long as I can. So back to the comment on what's my personal agenda for this podcast. That's it. It serves my life purpose. So as we walk through the various steps on how you can create your own life purpose, to build resolve and overcome complacency, I'll refer back to how I went about using these steps to create my purpose. All right, so segment 2, and this is kind of a scary part for me. You know, I draw a lot of motivation from music, right? So I want to kick off this section with a few lyrics from one of my favorite 80s bands, and I mean truly favorite. If you haven't ever seen Huey Lewis and the News live, the time's passed because Huey's suffering, I think, some issues with his hearing. Hopefully he'll recover and come back out because these guys are fantastic, especially live. But one of their breakout hits was called The Power of Love. Now, a couple weeks ago, I read you the lyrics of Oliver Anthony, but I decided this one's so powerful that I'm going to attempt to sing this one to you. Ready? Power of Love. I think this is the first chorus. You don't need money. You don't take fame. Don't need no credit card to ride this train. It's strong and it's sudden and it's cruel sometimes, but it might just save your life. That's the power of love. Power of love. Okay, that's it. I told you that's why I was nervous. I can't quite hit the high notes like Huey, but you get the gist of what that is. Maybe a nice but off-key intro on how to begin to create our own life purpose. Find something you love. Author James Clear of Atomic Habits, mega-selling book, Atomic Habits, great book, highly recommend it. He tells us why it's so important to know what you love in this way. Before you discover what you love, you have fewer commitments and more experiments. After you discover what you love, you have fewer experiments and more commitments. I'll try to say that again without botching it. Before you discover what you love, you have fewer commitments and more experiments. After you discover what you love, you have fewer experience. I screwed it up again. Fewer experiments and more commitments. I'm not going to try it a third time because that would be really embarrassing. So for me, this was personal, right? And the way it was personal was because along my journey, there were several key people, who had no real reason to help me, but they did anyway. And each and every one of them changed my life in some major way. I often wonder what my life would have become if these people had not intervened and helped me when they didn't need to. And nearly all of the versions of that aren't pretty. So to pay it back, I decided I wanted to be like them. And my overarching purpose became helping others in as many ways as I can, yada, yada, yada. Okay, so think about what you love, what you value, what's important to you, people that have been important to you, what were they like? Jot those things down, and we'll move to step 2. Ask yourself, who do I want to become? We spend a lot of time thinking backwards, but we don't spend a lot of time thinking forwards. And this concept of becoming is an extremely powerful mindset. We're all becoming something, right? We're all going to be something 5 years from now, right? And we have a choice in what that is. So this breaks us out of complacency because it lets you stay future focused. So we start by creating this thought process about who we are today and who we want to be. Social scientists like me call this a gap analysis, but I don't care what you call it. Just write down what's most important to you, what you're most passionate about. Consider who or what you admire and value, how your life is connected to those people, ideas, or things. And then start thinking about who you want to become by identifying your long-range aspirations, ambitions. What does the best version of your life look like in 5 years? In 10 years, in 20 years. And it's not like I just want to be rich and live in a Caribbean island. Think about intrinsic values, things that you can do to make the world different. Here's a couple questions to help. Are your personal goals and your professional goals consistent with the things you love? A lot of times we end up in jobs that have nothing to do with things we care about, right? Are your personal goals and your professional goals aligned with each other? Okay? And here's a key one. You'll hear it mentioned a couple more times in the follow-on steps. Beyond yourself, who do you want to serve and why? Who do you want to serve and why? What problem are you contributing to solving? So as a part of this step, and I know there's a lot of steps here, so those of you that are commuting, don't worry about writing anything down, please don't. There's a template for all this. I'll give you how to get that, and you can walk through this. So we're still in step 2. So as you're thinking about who I want to become, also think about the legacy you want to leave when you're gone, right? What's the mark you want to leave in the world? And now it's time to start thinking about how your skill set, where your position in life can allow you to do that. So here's a couple more questions to ask. How specifically would you like the world to be different when you leave it? How do you want to be remembered? What do you hope to create, change, or maintain that'll be lasting? And once again, who do you want to support with your purpose? And how might you do that? That should all help you create this picture of who you want to become and set up nicely for step 3, which is look at your talents, right? It's also a gap analysis. Assess some things you're currently good at or need to become good at to achieve your purpose. Right? Now, you don't have your purpose yet, but you got some values, you got a legacy you're thinking about. So you don't have your purpose quite yet, but you're starting to congeal some stuff around a central theme. So for me, in order to help as many as I can, as many ways as I can, yada, 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 I had to become a better writer because initially that was my opportunity. But I also had to overcome my introversion and reluctance to meet new people, speak to them, to reach out. Eventually, I had to learn to become a better public speaker, or just any kind of public speaker, because I was terrified of it. And I was able to accomplish those things only because they were necessary to me to fulfill my purpose. In short, I overcame my resistance to grow and beat back complacency through the power of my purpose. And I promise you, you can absolutely do the same. So step 4 is the final but not quite step in this game. Craft your life purpose statement. Right? Look for common threads from the first 3 steps and tie them together into an action statement. And it's going to sound something like this. I will do this thing for the following reasons, a cause, by the stuff you plan to do to achieve the desired result. I will do this thing for the following reasons by doing this stuff to achieve this. Here's an example from a friend. I will make, challenge, and change the laws for underrepresented rural communities to preserve their land, lifestyles, and culture. Pretty cool, huh? She's a lawyer. I will make, challenge, and change the laws for underrepresented rural communities to preserve their land, lifestyles, and culture. Now that's pretty tight. Being a rancher myself, or at least a little hobby rancher, I like that one a lot. So again, I know that's a lot to take in on how to do all 4 of those steps on a podcast, especially if you're listening. So feel free to email me. Once again, it's tony@convergentperformance.com, or post the request on my Facebook page, the Only Human Podcast Facebook page, and I'll send you a template for you to do this. Right? And don't worry if you don't get your purpose statement right the first time. It took me 5 or 6 versions before I settled on mine. It takes some time, but you can't edit something. You can't edit a blank page, right? So you've got to get something down. So the final actual step is, okay, I got this purpose statement. How do I make it real? And so for me, I printed my purpose statement out on a couple of cards. I put one in my wallet and I stuck the other on my computer screen. It's right here, right now in front of me. I literally cannot go a day without seeing it, without thinking about it. And when I think about it, I drive it forward. And when I drive my purpose forward, it drives me forward. Okay? Look, overcoming complacency is not easy for anybody, but once you create your purpose and begin to think about it, it becomes almost automatic. You look for new ways to achieve your purpose. And also, you avoid getting lost in those time-wasting activities that don't contribute to it. You can still relax, have fun, do whatever you want to do, but you will always be coming back to this idea, there's more I can do to achieve my purpose. So, okay, wrap up and takeaways. Three of them. First of all, before we even get into this segment, this podcast is for anyone and everyone who wants to get more out of their life, even left-handed lumberjacks and cat people, right? Retirees that think they can't contribute anymore. It doesn't matter. If you have a desire to get better, to get more out of your life, this podcast is for you. Share it, please. Number two, having a personal life purpose is an anchor point for staying engaged in life and making a difference. And that's true no matter if you're just getting started in life, if you're no longer in the workforce, whether you got a lot of time to engage or a little bit of time to engage, the more you know your purpose, you're anchored to, the more you're going to lean your efforts, the more motivation you will have. And finally, number three, purpose is the high driver of resolve. It's a magical quality, but it's not mystical. It's magical in that it will drive you forward through adversity, and it will keep you forward on what lies ahead, and will help you improve from every test that you have. So that's the major thing I hope we got out of today. Actually, three major things. Purpose drives us forward in the midst of uncertainty. It pushes complacency out of the way. It anchors us to what's important to us. Purpose gives us meaning. And this meaning gives us motivation, wind in our sails. And eventually this motivation evolves into resolve. Resolve to survive, to grow, to serve, no matter what challenges we face. And maybe most importantly, in this crazy world we live in, purpose gives us a path to follow when we're uncertain what path to choose. All right, that's a wrap on episode 5 of Only Human, where we believe in the power of one, where each of us can learn to make the most of the blessings we've been given and the challenges that we face. So thanks for listening. Please follow, link, share, promote, like, whatever else you can do to get the word out there, what we're doing together. I'm Tony Kern. Please keep the feedback coming because after all, I'm only human. I'll see you soon.